The last one I'm gonna tie is one I kind of came up with this year. I've been playing around with minnows for a little while now, and I wanted something small that would still catch fish. And the first time I took this out on the North Saskatchewan, I caught fish until I had to leave. So these work. They work for just about any of the species on the North Saskatchewan. I've caught mooneye, goldeye, pike, walleye, sauger, all of them on this small little fly. Big surprise, size 6. I know they do, but these are the only ones I really need. So I'm going to take some 0.25 lead wire. Just add a little bit of weight to this fly. It doesn't really need it. It will sink. It's a rather sleek profile, not a whole pile of buoyant materials, but it gets it down. If you are fishing the North Saskatchewan, Brian Greenwood is a big proponent of fish from the bottom up on the North Saskatchewan. So that extra bit of weight will get you down there a little quicker. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 turns of the wire.
Lucky number 7.
Number 7. Again, I want to kind of keep my lead closer to where I want the head of this fly to be. Okay. I've got some copper wire. It's just going to be a rib to kind of keep the body together. The first few of these I made without the wire underbody. So the one I have up front here actually does not have wire in the body. But I find adding this little bit of wire has them last quite a bit longer when you're fishing them. So I got an old pair of scissors. I don't really care too much about cutting wire with the same scissors I'm cutting hair with, but if you got a new set, maybe grab a cheap set of scissors so you're not wrecking them.
Don't use your TM codes, I know. We know.
So I'm just going to tie it along the back. Kind of use that as a ramp to get up and over my lead when I make my dubbing body. So not everybody's going to have this. This is under fur from my dog. But
You and he are not friends anymore.
no, actually she sheds, so
Oh,
twice a year I get bags and bags of this stuff.
oh, there you go.
But twice a year she sheds. Any
I've never seen
light,
spaniel on one of these
yeah,
pattern descriptions, but that's...
it's miniature husky, but any light brown dubbing will work for this. I just have an abundance of this material, so.
What's your dog's name?
Artemis.
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 Oh, the Artemis special then.
Yeah, so you can spit on your fingers, you can do whatever. I just grab chunks and spin it onto the line, push it up. tie a little bit at a time. And I want to build a tapered profile similar to a minnow. I'm going to change my dubbing, and I'm also going to bury that copper wire, so I'm just going to tie this off. If you don't have a rotary vise, just grab the wire, twist it around yourself. And I'm just preening it because that little chunk of wire is sharp on the end. I've cut my thread so many times that I've come to expect it. So we're going to put that in place. And then I'm going to grab some Flashabou Ice Pearl. This texture specifically is what I look for. It looks similar to fins on a fish once you put it in place. So if I bring the other one up, it gives it that profile in the water, and it gives you the flash that you want to attract the fish. So I'm just going to grab a small chunk of it, about twice as long as I think I need, because I'm just going to bend it in half. Put it along the edge of one side. Put the loop in there. And then from the top, I'm going to try to do that to it, where I get it on either side. Hold it in place and lash it in there really good. So, flashes all over the place. And then I'm going to grab a sparkly green diamond dubbing. So I've got a box of it, but specifically the light green. I don't know if that's easy to see or not. There's a light green in there.
Starting to look like a golfus.
I'm going to tie this in here. I don't need a whole pile of this, it's just to give me a transition point. Because I'm going to use this to tell me where I need to stick the eyes on at the very end of the fly. Okay, and then you can use the light pink, or you can use red. I like my reds, so I'm going to use a little more of this, but I'm going to use it as dubbing this time. And before I tie that in place, I'm going to grab some turkey quills. I've got one that I've mostly stripped, so that's why I kind of grabbed a new one so everyone can see it. And this is going to form the back of the fish as well as the tail. So backs are often dark, so I like the dark colors, but again, you can go with the light. I have white ones at home, and you can color them with markers, but you want to grab a good inch, so this whole section or more. It's got to cover the whole back of the fly once you tie it in place. And then I want to check the length. So I'm going to tie it in here, and I want it to be about twice the length maybe of my hook. So 1, 2. But I'm going to tie it in front, forward. And then I've got that red dubbing is going to form my gills. And then I'm going to sneak my thread back to the back end of this fly and try not to disturb the fins too much. Once I get it back there, I take this and bend it all the way back, but it looks like I didn't lash it all in there, so some of this is going to come out on me. I might have to tie some more in. We'll see. So what I'm doing here is I flipped it back and I want to make sure that it ties and covers the whole back end of this fly. So in this case, I lost a whole pile of that feather. It came off, so I have to back up a little bit. Try to get this all together again. You may want to just scrap all this and grab a new chunk of feather, but this doesn't look that bad, so I should still be able to make it work. I think I'll have to actually grab a new chunk of feather. You want to make sure you have your thread in front of your big ball of dubbing when you do this, so when you turn it over, it forms a nice clean head. So when I pull it over there, I have a nice clean spot at the end that's going to form the head. But like I said, I got to work this thread back so I can tie it off at the back end of my fly. So before you tie it in, try to make sure you've covered everything with that feather. Little spots flashing through, not the end of the world, but it just looks cleaner once you've finished it off. So I got that in place. I just have to whip finish it and then play with some resin. So put that in there. Okay, and looking at it now, it's more or less done, but the final step here is to add resin across the whole back of the fish. Gives it a little bit of a flash in the water, gives it more strength, and at the very end we'll just put 2 eyes on, right at that transition point between our green and our red dubbing. So use whatever UV resin you'd like. I just happen to have some Loon outdoors because I got it for Christmas one year. So I've got it in thin, flow, and thick. I actually like the thin stuff the most for this. Flow is like water. You put it on there, it goes everywhere. Thin will hold its place a little bit for us, so I can put it along the top, get a little bit of a bead going, and then maneuver it into place. And then with resin, you hit it with the light.
Reminds me of being at the dentist.
Yeah,
UV?
UV light.
You might want to point that away from your eyes
Yeah,
when you use it.
normally I just go straight down, but.
Okay.
And last step will be to put some holographic eyes on it, whatever color you would like, and whatever size you prefer. I've got lots. I happened to hit a store that was closing, so I got them for 10 cents for a pack. So I bought every single one I could find because they're normally quite a bit more expensive than that.
Store was closing.
There's a store in Calgary. So for the eyes, just because I don't want them to move while I'm playing with them, I use the thicker resin. And like I said, we want to go right where that transition point is. Put a big glob there. The eye goes in place. Big glob on the other side. Move them to however you want them to sit on there, and then again, you hit them with the light and it'll kind of lock everything in place. Doesn't take a whole lot. But, it's mostly cured there, so that's it for that fly. They fish quite well. They're easy to cast because they weigh nothing. You're so used to casting small flies if you fish for trout, you won't notice the difference with this compared to something like a bunny leech, which can be quite large and heavy when it gets wet.